Hey everybody, thanks for joining me again for another fast fishing video. Today I'm going to be talking about my favorite thing to fish. You guys know it, I love fishing jigs. But today what I'm going to be talking about specifically is how I modify them slightly to help them have a higher hookup ratio and actually draw in more fish. I'm also going to show you how I rig some of the trailers on them and kind of give you some insights as to why I do that. So let's get into it. Okay guys, so first things first, this is how I start out with all my jigs, brand new out of the pack like this. Pepper Custom Baits, football head jig. This is like, I forget what the color of this one is, but I'm going to take these jigs right out of the packet. I'm going to take my fingernail clippers and I am going to trim away just a little bit of the weed guard right off the front here. Now I'm going to trim it back close to the head as I can. And in this particular case, because I know where I'm going to be fishing this jig, and it is around some cover, but it's not super dense cover. So I'm going to take off 3 of those strands. I'm just going to snip them off like that, right in the middle there. I don't know if you can see that. But what that's going to do is that's going to still allow that to go over the weeds and everything, not without any problems. But when the fish bite on it, there's a little bit less resistance for them to be able to get their mouth on that bait and get it hooked up. Now again, primarily with the football head jigs, I'm going to take that jig afterwards. And depending on, really, there's a couple of ways you can do this, but depending on the type of lake you're fishing and what the fish will attract to, and you'll figure this out on your own over the years, is I am going to trim back some of that skirt. Now, if you see there, just hanging that jig just like that, the hook is completely buried within the skirt. And then, you know, if you throw on the fact that you're going to add a trailer to it, once that trailer is rigged, you can see that if the trailer is rigged properly, half of those twin tails are going to be caught up in the skirt, which is going to react and cause their action to not be great. So I'm going to let that thing kind of hang naturally, just like this. I'm going to take my scissors, and I'm going to trim that back, probably 3/4 of an inch, maybe a little bit more. I'm going to check it out, make sure it's pretty even. That looks pretty good. And then now I'm going to compare it again, look at my twin tail, and I'm going to see that that looks good. Now that's going to create a little bit of a different flare in the water, kind of more that puffball style. If you're familiar with the puffball jigs, that kind of just have a big, looks like a big bushel of the skirt on there. So then once I do that, I'm going to put my trailer on there. And you know, I don't recommend storing your jigs with trailers on them. It does some funky things sometimes to the silicone skirts and some of the other things, but I'm just going to do this for you guys. So I got my Yamamoto twin tail. I'm going to run that up on there, and I like to leave it, like I've shown you in some of my jig fishing videos before, I like to leave it where there's a little bit of curve in the presentation of the bait. So I'm going to run that almost through to the very end. And this is one of the 4-inch versions. So then when I push it up on there, it's got that little bit of a curve to it. And then that's going to be the way that bait presents itself. Now when it's on the bottom, it's going to give off, especially if you're chasing fish that are eating crawdads, it's going to give off a really cool defensive position. As that thing's laying on the bottom like that, it's got that arch just like a crawdad with its pinchers up in the air. Now I will do the same exact thing with, say, my the pro style heads or these swim style heads. I will take that, I will look at it, compare it to what I am going to be rigging for a trailer. I don't often run twin tails on these things. I will usually use something like a pack-a-crawl style or a beaver style bait as my trailers on there. And the way I usually run those, again, is I'm going to trim that weed guard just like I did before. I'm going to take this bait, I'm going to run it all the way up on there, and I'm going to make sure it gets a big curl on that bait so that when it's on there, same idea, curl, good hook exposure, and then you're going to have the pinchers hanging down like that with good action because the skirt's not in the way. Then I'm going to turn around, I'm going to separate these two, and there we go. That's a great style for your arky head jigs or these swim style heads, these more, flipping jig style. And then these things are going to really have a lot of action in the water. So I'm going to do that with most all my jigs. Again, I'm going to trim that weed guard back so that it gets a better hookup ratio. There's a little bit less resistance there. So you got to really pay attention to what the fish are going to be attracted to on your water and what bait fish or what forage you're trying to imitate. If I was going to throw this swim jig or this jig and I was going to move it through the water like a swim jig, I might leave that tail like that. I might use this exact same trailer, but leave that connected. And leaving that connected as it's swimming through the water really will give some action like a tail. You could even rig it sideways where it's up and down where the tail would be that way. And as you're reeling it back, it is going to create some tremendous action in the water. All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. It's been a great year. Thanks for all the support throughout 2017. I'll see you guys in the very near future in 2018 with some more great content. Once again, hit that like and subscribe button. Thanks again for the support, and we'll see you soon.